And thanks for everybody for doing this again. I'm happy to be here alongside our Minister of Finance, Nate Horner, to share more about Budget 2025. We've titled it Meeting the Challenge. And of course, we have a lot of challenges this budget year in the face of global trade uncertainty. We've worked very hard to keep our economy competitive, maintain our Alberta advantage, and also stand up for our province's autonomy. Our strong quality of life, our strong economy, and abundant opportunities continue to make Alberta the best place to live and work and raise a family, and we're focused on keeping it that way. Budget 2025 supports families and Albertans facing higher living costs. It invests in our core services like healthcare and education, and it positions us to respond to the uncertainties in trade caused by the tariffs. We're cutting your personal income taxes, which will save individual Albertans $750 and families $1,500 annually, at least up to that amount. We're investing billions across the healthcare system to improve healthcare access, build capacity at hospitals and rural facilities, expand surgeries, retain healthcare workers, and of course, grow out our primary care through both new funding models for doctors and nurse practitioners. We're also investing heavily in education to hire 4,500 more teachers and other educational staff, and of course, supporting the construction of new and expanded schools to create more than 200,000 new school spaces by 2030. So I could go on about the great work that our government is doing, but I do want to make sure that Minister Horner and I can get as many questions from you as possible. So that's the large scale framework, and I'll leave it there, and then happy to start taking your questions. Sam, did Minister Horner have anything he wanted to add, or Minister, did you have anything you wanted to add before we get into the questions?
Just briefly, Premier, I would just say, it's always a challenge to create a budget in Alberta. We do have the most complex and volatile system in the country, and this year it was harder than ever for many of the reasons the Premier mentioned. But we're proud of this budget. We thought it prudent to do a lot of things in this budget. It is a deficit, $5.2 billion deficit. We have a $4 billion contingency. We have what were at the time, I'd say, conservative assumptions around the price of oil, the differential, and some of our other sensitivities. But we're also very cognizant and reminded every day that we're just coming off a year where we had 4.4% population growth. We do expect that will subside in the years to come, but we're trying to do a lot of things. Manage the finances of a province that's growing fast, and so that'll always be a challenge. But I think we found the right balance.
Good morning, Minister, and good morning, Premier. Thank you for your time. Thank you for doing this for us. Yeah, my name is Lola. I'm with Diversity Magazine, and Diversity Magazine is the largest multicultural publication here in Alberta. So, my question is actually as regards our audience. So, I want to ask that in this budget, what do you have for the multicultural community, and why do you think that the multicultural community should care and should take this budget to heart?
Well, we want to provide supports for individuals regardless of what community they're from. So that's why we have broad-based tax cuts. It's why we have broad-based support for childcare, for affordability, and for electricity. Those are the things that we hear generally speaking. No matter who you are, you have those concerns. When I mentioned food banks, because we found some success in being able to support different multicultural food banks. I'll give an example. The South Sudanese community has a food bank, and there's just different food products that they bring in because the food preferences are different in different communities. We know that the Dashmesh Cultural Center as well also has a food bank we support for the same reasons. And so those are our programs that are administered through the Seniors Community and Social Services Department. And so if you know of any food banks that are needing that kind of support, that's one avenue. The other area is we have arts and culture and status of women. And we support through our various granting programs. I think 27,000 different grants go out each year under arts and culture and status of women, as well as through our immigration and multiculturalism department, as well as through tourism and sports. And many of them are supporting community, we have this community enhancement a facility enhancement fund. So if a community raises a certain amount of money to build a facility to support their community efforts, then they can apply for a grant to be able to match that. I know that there have been a number of different cultural groups that are looking at doing that. We've partnered as well with different groups over the years. We also have $10,000 grants for culture days. So if you wanted to put on a celebration, then that's the avenue, and it's through the Arts and Culture Ministry. Through immigration and multiculturalism, we have anti-racism grants as well to address particular issues of racism in certain communities. Some communities are more impacted by vandalism and crime than others. We also have a public safety initiative, so that if mosques or places of worship or schools are targeted, they can get a grant to get security cameras to be able to address that, to make sure that we catch any culprits. Those are sort of the main things that I would say. And also every year we do major celebrations in our rotunda for the different community celebrations. I think there was just one last week for Vaisakhi as an example. But we have major celebrations that happen there. Also at McDougall Center, we've celebrated Black History Month and do other celebrations around other major holidays. And we've also expanded the provision so that credit unions can provide alternative financing. There are some communities, particularly the Muslim community, that isn't allowed to pay interest. And so just creating different models like rent to own or equity purchases, though that's another freedom that we've given to banks or credit unions like Service Alberta, so that they can develop a different type of financing model so that people can access financing consistent with the tenets of their faith. Those are the things that come to mind immediately, but I don't know if there's anything more to add, Minister.
No, I think the alternative mortgage financing, I'm glad you brought that up, Premier. I think that's a good example of responding to the needs of the Alberta population. We're one of the most diverse jurisdictions in North America. So I think those broad-based advantages is what continues to attract newcomers, and we need more. Even with the population growth that we've seen, you know, we still have deficiencies in certain trade sectors and other things that we know we need more people to choose Alberta to be their home, and we'll continue to respond with things like the whole mortgage financing.
Minister, I had mentioned this. I don't know if it was too late in the bargaining process. I had mentioned that we were going to see if we could replicate what they did in Edmonton with some of their bargaining, to allow preference for individuals of different faiths to take their religious holidays off in a preferential way through our collective bargaining agreements. Was it too late to get that into our collective bargaining, or is there any language around that?
I'll have to follow up, Premier. I know it was brought up. I'm just not sure if it impacted all of the tables. But you know how it is, that sometimes the things we put forward aren't the priorities of the specific union. But yeah, I'll follow up with you on that.
Okay.
So, thank you. Next, I have a question from Giuseppe Marconi from Viva Yag Latino to read out, as he wasn't able to make it today. And then I'll be going over to Duran Auden for our next question there. So Giuseppe's question was, in your previous roundtable, you emphasized the importance of supporting ethnic and community media, which are currently facing serious challenges in staying active and sharing information. I would like to know, what concrete actions have you taken to prevent their further disappearance of community media?
I think that one might be for the finance minister through his CPE department, because I think we've changed. We have a bit of a different approach. I know that the Liberal government directly supports not only CBC but also some of the large newspapers. We take an approach that through advertising and making advertising dollars that we do for our various campaigns more accessible to more entities, that we think is the best way to be able to support independent media and still keep media independent. I think we've earmarked as 25% of the dollars that we spend on advertising to be able to be spread around the alternative media. But I'll just make sure that I'm not getting those numbers wrong if Minister Horner has more precise information on that.
Yes, no, you're right, Premier. The media directive is 25% to focus on Alberta and Canadian outlets, of which the outlets that are here today would certainly be part of that. So we're taking a different approach. We're not trying to pick specific firms, but ensure that there's opportunity there for everyone.